Nutrition labels have long hid nearly as much vital information about what's actually in your food as they revealed, but today the FDA has announced new rules that might finally clear up some of the confusion about particular things in your food that could be seriously harming your health. Here's a picture of the new label. It's not the final design, but it's what the FDA has currently revealed. And you're going to see some significant changes there. I want to break down some of the most significant. Calories will be bolded and larger because apparently the current font size is not large enough. People are still consuming far more calories than they're supposed to. Serving sizes will be updated to better reflect what people actually eat rather than what the food manufacturer wants to pretend that they eat. Nutrition facts for the entire package will also be listed because realistically, that's what Americans eat, the entire package. Also, some vitamins will be taken off of the list that's on all the foods, including vitamin A, I believe, because of real-world deficiencies changing over time. People are no longer deficient in those vitamins, so we're not going to track them. In 20 years, we will then be deficient in them. But most importantly, and the reason that we're talking about this today, is that declaration of grams and a % daily value for added sugars will be added to help consumers know how much sugar has been added to the product. This is something that I have talked about in multiple videos, a sort of dream of mine that I didn't think we would ever get because of the power of the food industry. On the current calorie label, food companies only report sugars, total sugars, which obscure the amount of sweeteners like sucrose, high fructose corn syrup, malt sugar, molasses, and others that foods contained. And those are the ones that you would recognize as being sugar. There are lists of literally dozens of things that are sugar, that the body treats as sugar, that have names you will never be able to identify, that they would have in the list of ingredients to hide the fact that you're consuming sugar. Or there would be products that include some natural sugars, products that have fruit in them, for instance, or milk, for instance, which has galactose, which is a form of sugar but is not bad for your health, that would also have added sugar, and you had no way of knowing which was which. And so this is a great change. And we're going to talk about some of the long-term effects that this might have on health. But first of all, I want to give some credit to Michelle Obama, who Cenk suspected would have been involved in this because of her Let's Get Movin' campaign. She announced today, very soon, you will no longer need a microscope, a calculator, or a degree in nutrition to figure out whether the food you're buying is actually good for our kids. That's a phenomenal achievement. I mean, I agree with most of that, not every part of that.
Most of the initial stories did not mention Michelle Obama. And so that's why we looked into it further. And look, it doesn't take a lot of investigation to find out she was super happy about this and part of the process. Now, but why did I want to look further? Why did I think Michelle Obama was deeply involved in this? It's obvious. First part's obvious. You know, she's about getting, physically in better shape and eating the right things. That's been her whole thing for the last 2 terms. That's her driving force and what she wants to take action on. Okay, now the second part is because I was like, like John said, this is not an easy fight because the sugar lobby is very, very strong. All the lobbies are strong because for them, this is their whole, living, right? And so this is their bottom line. A lot of money's on the line here. And so if they want to spend a couple of $1 million to save a couple of, I don't know, but the sugar industry is they'd save a couple of $1 billion.
Food industry is big.
No,
we buy a lot of food.
No. In terms of revenue, billions upon billions of dollars. I don't know how much it affects our profits, though. These particular rules. Okay, but certainly financially motivated. So how did they beat this strong lobby on the one thing that they care about? It turns out when the Obamas want to pass something, they pass it.
Yeah, it's near the election. He doesn't have to run again.
But Michelle Obama wanted it. Michelle Obama wanted it. So it turns out when they actually want something, they can put a lot of muscle behind it and get it done. I'm glad that they did this, and God bless Michelle Obama for doing this, and I think we should do more. But it is curious that all the things they tell us we can't do, but on their priorities, voila, change.
Yeah. She's been criticized in particular on this sort of issue that I believe, I don't want to say for sure, but I believe Robert Lustig, who's written several books about sugar, the effect of it, he considers it a toxin, how much of her work had focused on getting kids moving, getting them to exercise, which is great. All kids should exercise. They should do it more than they do now. But there's no anti-exercise lobby. There are lobbies that try to control what you eat. And any previous attempt to modify now we do the My Plate, but the food pyramid was a ridiculous joke for decades and decades and decades because it's created mostly in part with assistance from the food industry that wants you to eat empty carbs and wants you to consume sugar and that sort of thing. And so the fact that it took nearly 8 years to get sugars added onto the label, she had received criticism for in the past. Now, as you've alluded to, the sugar industry is not happy about this, and so they've already put out a statement saying, the extraordinary contradictions and irregularities, as well as the lack of scientific justification in this rulemaking process, are unprecedented for the FDA, which I don't even think would be true. But we are concerned that the ruling sets a dangerous precedent that is not grounded in science and could actually deter us from our shared goal of a healthier America. And
shared goal.
They share that goal. That's why they work for the sugar industry. They've already suggested that they might sue the FDA about the new label. The Sugar Association, those sons of bitches. I mean, it's the modern equivalent of the tobacco lobby. And the same goal, to not get accurate information put on the goddamn boxes that the food comes in. They want your kids to eat more sugar. There's no scientific like, oh, maybe it's bad for you, maybe it's not bad for you. I consume a lot of it, but not because I think it's good for me. It's because I'm goddamn addicted to it, which is one of the reasons they want your kids to consume it. Everybody knows that it's bad for you. We're going to have some of the facts later. I believe, aside from alcohol, which has the nice side effect of the more you drink of it, the harder it is to drink more of it, because eventually you just pass out, sugar doesn't have any limit like that. It might literally be the worst thing you can put on your body. Certainly the worst thing that you are regularly encouraged to put in your body by society, by culture, by traditions, by advertisements that are literally billions of dollars are spent on, and they think it needs to be defended, that we need to have more of it for our children to consume.
Yeah, so, look, I'm not as anti-sugar as John, and I think you can tell, okay, and I can prove it right here, but it's obvious that it makes you less healthy, and you should try to consume as little of it as you can or want to, right? So we're not saying here outlaw sugar. This is so simple. All we're saying is let's properly label it. I mean, can we at least do that? And the answer turns out is yes. If we try hard enough, we can do that. Now, look, I'd go much further. And let me just first quickly note, this lobby talking about science is hilarious. They don't give a damn about science. So no matter what the regulation was that came out, and no matter how they wanted to label the sugar, they would have said, oh, this is unscientific. We have a couple of scientists that we paid a lot of money to represent us, and they claim, even though they're in the tiny, tiny percentage of scientists, that this is very unscientific, right? So they were going to say that no matter what, because they're paid to say that, right? So in terms of what we can actually do, I'd go further and kill the corn subsidy. There's no reason for all those subsidies going to corn, which then leads to high fructose corn syrup, which is the worst kind of sugar to put in your body. Don't put the fake sugar in. At least have real sugar. It's, you know,
I think that's crap too, but
I understand what you're saying. We've had that discussion before. I think the artificial kind is definitely worse.
The sugar is crap, not your argument.
Yeah.
Sorry. Just to be clear.
Well, then by implication, my argument is also not great. But, okay.
I wanted them to come to that conclusion.
Right, but don't subsidize it, thereby having high fructose corn syrup in all of our food. There's no need for that. Why are you taking money out of my pocket as a taxpayer and giving it in the form of a subsidy to an industry that doesn't need it and that eventually, because of the high fructose corn syrup, makes us all less healthy? It's madness.
I can tell you why.
That actually could make a difference as opposed to this, which is nice transparency. I'll take it, but I'd rather attack the heart of the problem.
You asked a question. You said why? Why do we give that money? And can I answer?
Yes, Jimmy.
I'm gonna guess it has something to do with money and politics. Does it have something to do with money and politics?
Right.
So money and politics. So this is why people are interested in Bernie Sanders, because we realize now that not only everything is corrupted, right? Not only our economic system through Wall Street, not only our endless war system that we've been having since 2000, endless, but even to we're not even allowed to find out what we're eating because it might cost a corporation some money.
Yeah.
That's what this is about. So we got to get money out of politics because, and then there's the other people who say, well, I don't pay attention to politics. Politics is involved in everything. You want the pothole fixed in front of your street, in front of your house, that's politics. You want your kid to go to a better school, that's politics. You want to know what you're eating. You want to know what you're feeding your own kids? That is also politics, and money in politics also affects that.
Yeah.
And that's why we got to have a revolution, and that's why we got to get money out of politics, because look, they can do it when they want. Barack Obama did it. The problem is he's got millions and millions of dollars going the other way, all the other politicians do, to not do the right thing. And that's what people are sick about. And that's the issue that's not going away no matter what happens in this primary. That issue is here and now.
Yeah. Now, to give you an idea of how this might affect people, this is just information. It still requires that people seek the information, they see it, and they actually act on it. But to give you an idea of what effect this might have, first of all, to give you an effect, this is the cost to change all these labels is going to be $2 billion. That means that there's a lot of labels that need to be changed. And you're going to see that demonstrated here in a section from one of Robert Lustig's books. Barry Popkin of the University of North Carolina states that of the 600,000 food items for sale in the U.S., 80% have added sugar in them. 90% of the food produced in the U.S. is sold to you by a list of the conglomerates you're going to see there. This to give you an idea of the big business nature of it. I mean, there are some foods that are drastically going to have to change. Like people who, to eat healthy, will eat yogurts. Man, that fucking shit is loaded with added sugar, and you never knew it because it just said sugar, and you say, oh, it's got blueberries in it. No, it's got added sugar in it, and you're going to find that out by 2018 when they finally put this into effect. It takes a while, unfortunately. But this is incredibly significant, and long-term, if we want to deal with one of the biggest problems financially that we have in this country, which is our overpriced health insurance industry, the reason we pay so much for health insurance, well, there's a lot of reasons, but one of them is the chronic conditions that we have and that other societies are starting to have. Diabetes, heart disease, cancer, stroke, and those sorts of things later on. Sugar is one of the leading reasons that people develop those sorts of conditions afterward. This is not going to cure all of our ills. This is one of the things we need to take out of our diet. There are many things we need to put back in our diet, but this at least gets us part of the way. And right now, many Americans eat about 5 times the amount of sugar that they currently consume, according to a professor of medicine, and far more than we did just a couple of decades ago. When we had that national campaign to get fat out of our food because we falsely believed that it led to heart disease, they reacted by putting sugar into foods. And so we were unfortunately doing the damage we were trying to avoid. If you think that it's just about obesity, and if you're not currently obese, so you're not worried about that, sugar has other effects on the body as well. I mean, go and read as much as you can about this, but just a quick overview of a few. Creates a cycle of intense cravings, causing you to want to consume more of the products it is in. It impairs memory and learning skills, causes or contributes to depression and anxiety, and is a risk factor for age-related cognitive decline and dementia. We also have a couple of charts that are going to show you the current states of obesity, both for adults and for children. In our research, so Jen Roofer, who's the associate producer of the Young Turks, found that thankfully childhood obesity has shockingly actually gone down. You're going to see that obesity rates among 2 to 5-year-olds fell from 14% to 8%. Because 2 to 5-year-olds, 14% of them were obese back in 2003 to 2004. So anytime you hear anyone make a case that it's that people aren't exercising enough, it's that they don't have willpower. They just go out and they eat the foods they want. 2-year-olds are not choosing what foods they want, and they're not like, oh, I don't feel like going and playing baseball. It's the shit that's added to their food, and this is one step to dealing with some of it.
You know, because they were obese. That was from 2003. So maybe a lot of those kids were emotionally eating because of 9/11.
It was depressing, yeah. Now, thankfully, soft drink consumption has gone down quite a bit over the last decade, and that is one of the principal places that people get sugar. But once they get rid of that, they might think that they're in the clear, and they're not, as that list of the 600,000 products
and you
told
know,
you.